Every so often, maybe once a decade, Apple stops everything to reinvent the iPhone. And in the product's history, they've only done this one time before. That was back in 2017 with the iPhone X, where all at once Apple got rid of the home button and expanded the display, wrapped it in stainless steel, and gave us this all-glass look that just seemed like the phone of the future. But in the years since then, it just doesn't feel like Apple has made as much additional progress as they would have hoped. The current iPhones are more powerful and capable than ever, but they don't look like the phone of the future anymore. They just look like another iPhone year after year. Well, recently there's been a big leak about what Apple is planning for the 20th anniversary of the iPhone. And instead of just playing it safe, they are once again planning to completely reinvent what an iPhone is supposed to be. According to sources, the codename for the iPhone 20 is Glasswing. And while normally I wouldn't start off with an internal identifier, it is a very apt description, as a glasswing is a type of butterfly with transparent wings. What does that have to do with the iPhone? Well, take a look at the new display. This is not going to be a screen like we have ever seen from Apple before. It doesn't just stretch the entirety of the top and bottom, it actually extends over to the sides as well. And it wraps around the phone with these new glass wings that hug the rest of the device. It is a absolutely wild look, and it really shows Apple's ambitions for what they want this to be. iPhone 20 isn't just something you look at, it blends into the world around you. And it perfectly lines up with Apple introducing their liquid glass design language inside of the iPhone. Putting this on screen of the iPhone 20, it just matches perfectly. As for the exact size of the screen, that's still a bit up in the air. Apple could base it off of the existing 6.3 and 6.9 inch variants, or they could go a different route and offer it in just one size, like they did with the iPhone X, where there was only one selection you could make. Either way, the second you see one of these in the real world, there's just going to be nothing that looks exactly like it. But the real story of this display is actually what's not here, what you can't see, because the iPhone 20 will mark the first time that Apple completely removes the visible bezels and hides both the camera and the Face ID sensor under the screen. You will be getting a truly uninterrupted view of your content for the first time ever, and it looks absolutely crazy to visualize this change. Now, in seeing this, I was pretty skeptical that Apple could get here. I feel like we have heard about this all-screen look, and it has never materialized ever. But in looking into it, there's been a lot of reporting about what Apple is planning to do over the next few years, and there's a pretty clear path. Like this year on the iPhone 17 Pro, they are going to end up slightly shrinking down the dynamic island. Then the following year on the 18 Pro, Apple said to move dynamic island to the top left-hand corner and put Face ID completely under the screen. So the only visual aberration will be the camera lens itself. That leads us into the following generation, the iPhone 20, where it's all completely hidden. So it will be a gradual change. It's not like we're going from the current dynamic island to absolutely nothing. I think Apple really does see a path to achieving this. Not to mention, we've seen rough forms of this technology from other manufacturers. It's what Apple is always doing. They're waiting to perfect it, and they might be a little bit late, but their version will be truly uninterrupted. I mean, just from the front alone, the iPhone 20 looks super clean. It's inspired me to take a closer look at what I'm eating and putting into my body, which is why I partnered up with Thrive Market, who sponsored today's video. Yeah, unfortunately, it turns out that a lot of the food I was regularly buying at the grocery store was filled with things that are really bad for me, but Thrive Market takes care of that. They're online membership based, and they bring the highest quality products to your doorstep. See, they do the heavy lifting to make sure everything that they sell doesn't have artificial dyes or colors or sweeteners in them. And I've heard people say my whole life, hey, if you stop eating that filler stuff, you'll feel better. And yeah, they were right. Thrive Market has the highest quality standards in the industry, restricting over 1,000 plus questionable ingredients from everything they offer. You can look on the labels of the food that arrives in your box and see it immediately. You get just the stuff you want, it tastes great, and you don't have any of the junk hidden behind it. My first box arrived super quickly, and I got a ton of good stuff in my first order, my favorite of which being these fruit snacks. They are just out of this world good. And because you're ordering all of this online, it is so convenient to reorder your favorites and also get great recommendations from their existing product library on their website. Side note, it's also the prettiest grocery website I've ever seen, and it actually makes ordering things easy. So click the link in my description box or go to thrivemarket.com/AppleTrack to get 30% off your first order and a free gift when you join Thrive Market today. A huge thank you to them for sponsoring and for filling my belly. Okay, now let's get back to the rest of the video. And this idea of a seamless, uninterrupted design that's a smooth smooth, continuous curve. That is Apple's design philosophy for this entire product. It's why I believe that over on the sides, Apple's completely changing the way the buttons work. Because for years, we've heard about Apple's continued development of Project Bongo, which is a different type of button made of a solid-state technology. Essentially, where iPhone buttons right now physically move back and forth when you press them, solid-state buttons remain in place and just provide haptic feedback similar to the home button on an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8. To be fair here, I know new buttons don't seem like that big of a deal, but it'd be one of these small touches in combination with the haptic engine that makes it feel a lot more premium. On top of it, also making the phone more waterproof and less moving parts means less things likely to break. Now, flipping it over and taking a look at the back of the iPhone 20, that's where you'll see some even larger changes. Although Apple has been using the same triangular camera setup since 2019 on the iPhone 11 Pro, they are finally unwinding these and placing them side by side on the iPhone 20. Here, Apple's planning to introduce a new horizontal camera bar with the wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto placed right in a line and the flash and the LiDAR over on the right. And it's important to note here that this camera bar will not be placed at the very top of the device. In our renders, we have it shown offset a bit intentionally. That's because physically on the inside, there wouldn't be enough room for all of the camera machinery on top of the Face ID and front-facing camera to stack up against each other, unless the phone was really thick. So to make sure that everything properly fits inside, Apple's placing it just a few millimeters down on the phone to give the front-facing components some room to breathe. That being said, with the new horizontal lens setup, we don't actually know how spatial video would work on here. Right now, Apple captures it by having a lens placed on top of each other, similar to how it is on the iPhone 16. So by rotating these, maybe spatial video would only work in the vertical orientation, or maybe the feature just wouldn't be here at all, considering there's like 7 people in the world that own the Apple Vision Pro to watch these videos, and I'm one of them. And per usual, Apple's not changing the design of the cameras just to make it look different and for no other reason. They're doing it for something functional underneath. And it could be, according to this rumor, a new 200 megapixel sensor for at least one of the lenses. According to this, Apple is developing a crazy high resolution sensor. And while typically they have not gone in this direction, they focused more on larger pixels and a higher quality sensor than just bumping the megapixels up. Adding a 200 megapixel sensor to the iPhone could finally enable a crazy zoom feature. We've heard of Apple's work on a super telephoto lens for years at this point. We also know that on Android phones they've done this, but the resolution isn't all the way there yet. You can get something pretty cool and fix it with AI, but optically, Apple has always been about making it the underlying tech perfect and then adding features on top. So with this 200 megapixel sensor on the iPhone 20, it could enable new types of shooting that we've never been able to do on the iPhone, and it can do it in a high quality way that no other manufacturer has done yet. As for the rest of the back on the iPhone 20, outside of the camera bump, you will see this solid sheet of glass that really does look like a callback to the iPhone 10. But behind this glass, that's where Apple's making, I think, one of the other core changes that will really mark the legacy of this phone. And that's an entirely new type of battery. See, since day one of the iPhone, Apple has used what is known as a lithium-ion battery. On day one, it holds 100% of its charge, but over time, because of the technology, it naturally degrades. It means that on year 3 of owning your iPhone, the battery's not going to be as good as it was in year 1. It's just a limitation of that technology, which, to be clear, is industry standard. It's not an iPhone thing, it's a lithium-ion battery thing. Based off of what I've read, in the next couple of years, I believe that this standard is going to change. There have recently been some somewhat interesting breakthroughs in battery technology, specifically in regards to solid-state or 100% silicon batteries, which are able to hold a way larger capacity than traditional lithium-ion. They degrade a bit slower, and they take up about the same amount of space. So if Apple was able to build this into the iPhone, you could see a 2, 3, 4x improvement in battery life without the phone having to really get thinner at all. Honestly though, can Apple mass produce this in time for hundreds of millions of iPhone 20s in a couple of years? I don't know, but the research I've read in the past couple of months is pretty promising. There is a proof of concept of this technology working, and now it's just in manufacturers and Apple's hands to miniaturize this in a way that fits into the iPhone. I mean, imagine they announce the iPhone 20 and you don't have to charge it every night, and the battery lasts 2 to 3 days with a single use. Alongside the battery, Apple's planning to really ramp up their AI efforts with Siri and other features in the next couple of years. They're not there yet, but their ambitions are pretty high, and they want their hardware to be able to support and have overhead for what they're they're doing next. That's why, according to one report, Apple's planning to use a new type of RAM known as HBM, or Mobile High Bandwidth Memory. And the idea with this is pretty similar to the battery. It vertically links a bunch of modules together on the processor die without taking up additional space, allowing you to compute more on device, which we know is the direction Apple is going. And by the iPhone 20, AI features will be significantly more advanced and thirsty for power than they are in 2025. Speaking of dates, it's probably a good time to mention that this phone is not coming out this year, or even next year, actually. According to the rumors, because this is the 20th anniversary model, Apple is planning to unveil it in September of 2027, or quite some time from right now. But that's honestly why I believe it. If you told me Apple was making a phone like this year, there's no way Apple could accomplish this all at once. But over the next 24 to 36 months, I believe these battery advancements are coming. Apple has been working on this under-screen tech, and manufacturers and suppliers have been working to meet Apple's strict requirements for a crazy device that looks like this. Also, I'm sure this goes without saying, but I would not expect this to be a budget model. When Apple introduces this, it will likely be alongside existing regular and Pro models, and this will sort of be in a league of its own to celebrate the 20th anniversary, available in just one SKU. It seems like the iPhone 20 is going to be the first iPhone that makes you question what a smartphone is supposed to look like, because on the front, it's just a screen, nothing else. It's the holy grail iPhone, and me personally, I couldn't be more excited. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, really helps me and the channel out. Subscribe for more videos on the iPhone 20 or XX, maybe they'll call it the iPhone XX. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.